The Ghost Bus of Silent Grove. In the depths of the Silent Grove jungle, there is an urban legend that has haunted the locals for generations. The tale speaks of a bus that mysteriously vanished one foggy night along with its passengers. Many have tried to dismiss the legend as just a ghost story, but those who venture too close to the heart of the jungle know better. This is the story of how the legend came to be and the chilling truth behind it. It was a humid late summer evening when the bus pulled out of the depot, its headlights piercing the growing darkness. The driver, a seasoned veteran named Joe Martinez, had driven this route hundreds of times. The route was notorious for its treacherous curves and dense overhanging foliage that swallowed the road, but Joe was confident, perhaps a bit too much so. The passengers were a mix of weary travelers and local villagers heading back to their homes. There was Mrs. Michael, a school teacher returning from a visit to her sister, a group of college students on a field trip, and an elderly couple, Mr. and Mrs. Parker, heading back after a day in the market. The bus was filled with the low hum of conversations and occasional laughter as the trees outside became a blur of green shadows. As they ventured deeper into the jungle, an unexpected storm began to brew. Dark clouds rolled in, and the first raindrops splattered against the windshield. Joe turned on the wipers, but the rain quickly became a torrential downpour. The winding road grew slick and treacherous. Thunder rumbled ominously, and flashes of lightning illuminated the dense jungle. The passengers fell silent, unease settling over them like a thick fog. Joe gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles whitening. Suddenly, a blinding flash of lightning struck a tree near the road, sending it crashing down in front of the bus. Joe slammed on the brakes, and the bus skidded to a halt, narrowly avoiding disaster. Shaken, he realized they were now trapped, the road blocked by the massive tree. The rain showed no sign of letting up, and the jungle seemed to close in around them. Joe turned to the passengers. "Everyone, please stay calm. We're going to have to wait this storm out. I'll try to call for help." He reached for his radio, but it was dead. The storm must have knocked out the signal. Panic began to ripple through the bus. The college students whispered among themselves, and Mrs. Carmichael clutched her handbag tightly. The Parkers held each other's hands, their faces pale. Joe took a deep breath. "We can't stay here all night. I'm going to see if I can find a way to get help. Stay on the bus and keep the doors locked." Joe grabbed a flashlight and an emergency kit, then stepped out into the pouring rain. The jungle was a cacophony of sounds, the relentless pounding of the rain, the rustling of leaves, and the distant cries of unseen animals. The beam of his flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing little more than an endless expanse of trees and undergrowth. Back on the bus, the passengers huddled together, trying to keep their spirits up. Hours passed, and Joe didn't return. Anxiety turned to fear as the storm showed no signs of abating. Eventually, the passengers drifted into an uneasy sleep, hoping that daylight would bring relief. Morning broke, but the storm had only lessened slightly. Joe was still missing. The passengers, now desperate, debated their next move. Some suggested waiting longer, while others wanted to venture out to find help. Mrs. Carmichael, ever the voice of reason, stood up. "We can't just sit here. If Joe hasn't returned, something must be wrong. We need to stick together and find our way back to the main road." Reluctantly, the group agreed. They gathered their belongings, took what little food and water they had, and stepped off the bus into the dripping jungle. The path was treacherous, the ground slippery and uneven. The deeper they went, the more oppressive the jungle seemed to become. As they trudged through the underbrush, one of the students, Lisa, stumbled upon something strange, a clearing with what appeared to be an old abandoned village. The structures were dilapidated, overgrown with vines and moss. It was as if the jungle had reclaimed the land. "Look at this place," Lisa said, her voice trembling. "What happened here?" Mr. Parker, who had lived in the area all his life, looked around, his face ashen. "This is Silent Grove. My grandfather used to tell stories about it, said it was cursed. People disappeared here. The group exchanged uneasy glances. The village had an eerie, timeless quality to it, as if it had been abandoned for centuries. But what struck them the most was the sense of being watched, an unseen presence lurking just beyond their line of sight. As they explored the village, strange things began to happen. Shadows flitted at the edge of their vision, and ghostly whispers filled the air. The group became increasingly paranoid, convinced they were not alone. The jungle seemed to close in on them, the trees like silent sentinels. Night fell once again, and they decided to take shelter in one of the more intact buildings. As they huddled together, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Mrs. Carmichael clutched her rosary, praying under her breath. In the dead of night, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence. It was Mr. Parker. The group rushed to his side, but it was too late. He lay lifeless, his eyes wide with terror. There were no visible wounds, but his face was contorted in agony. Panic set in. "We need to get out of here," one of the students cried. But the jungle had other plans. Over the next few days, the group tried to find their way out of the village, but it was as if the jungle itself was conspiring against them. Paths that seemed familiar led them in circles, and landmarks they passed hours ago suddenly appeared again, unchanged. Their supplies dwindled, and fear turned to desperation. They started to turn on each other, accusing one another of leading them astray. The once orderly group dissolved into chaos. One night, Mrs. Carmichael disappeared. They found her the next morning, sitting by the edge of the village, staring blankly into the trees. She didn't respond to their calls or touch, her mind seemingly lost to the jungle. Days turned into weeks, and the group was whittled down to just Lisa and a student named Mark. They were gaunt, their clothes tattered, and their eyes hollow. They stumbled upon a cave, hoping it might offer some clue or escape. Inside, they found ancient carvings on the walls depicting the history of the village. It told of a ritual gone wrong, a pact with dark spirits that cursed the land and its inhabitants. The villagers had sought power and protection, but instead, they were trapped in a never-ending cycle of horror. As Lisa and Mark pieced together the story, a chilling realization set in. They were not just lost, they were trapped in the same cycle. The jungle, the village, the ghostly whispers, it was all part of the curse. Desperation gave them strength. They decided to make one last attempt to break free. Following the cave's carvings, they performed the ritual described, hoping to undo the curse. As they chanted the ancient words, the jungle seemed to come alive around them, the spirits manifesting as shadowy figures. With a final desperate plea, they completed the ritual. The spirits howled in rage, but then there was silence. The oppressive weight lifted, and the jungle seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Lisa and Mark stumbled out of the cave, and for the first time, they saw a clear path leading out of the jungle. Exhausted and broken, they followed it until they emerged onto the main road. Rescue teams found them days later, barely alive but free from the jungle's grasp. They were hailed as survivors, but they knew the truth. Silent Grove had claimed many lives, and it would continue to do so until someone else was unfortunate enough to cross its path. The bus was never found. The legend of the ghost bus grew, becoming a cautionary tale for those who dared to venture into Silent Grove. Some say the jungle still whispers at night, calling out for new souls to trap. Others claim to have seen a phantom bus, its headlights piercing the fog, roaming the jungle in search of its lost passengers. Thank you for joining us on this chilling journey through the haunted depths of Silent Grove. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more spine-tingling tales.